Yeah, I'm wearing a hat because it's cold here at the moment. I will be talking about Dr. Phibes as the title of this video does say, but I'm going to give myself a minute first to talk about something else. So if you don't want to hear what I've got to say about Black Lives Matter, go forward 1 minute and a little bit. I'm not going to make this about me. It's simply not about me, but the protests and the crimes of police officers and other people around the world have made me stop. I've been doing a lot of reading this week. I've been reading people of colour mostly. I've been reading James Baldwin. I've been reading Cornel West. I've been reading and watching a lot of things from various people of colour, and I can only say I support them. There have been some horrible crimes committed, not only in America, but here in Australia for a long time. I protested in 1988 and things are still going wrong. Been a really, really long struggle for people of colour, and I can only say from the depths of my heart that I support them. I've decided that it's not going to be about me and that I'm going to listen. And so I have been listening and I have been learning. And I'd like to thank the people who have stood up and spoken and told their truth to the world. In England, you've got John Boyega. In Australia, Nakia Louie. And around the world, there have been so many eloquent, passionate, and wonderful human beings who have taken the risk, and very often the risk, of speaking their truth to the world in this incredibly horrible time. Yes, I took a little bit more than a minute, but let's get on with the video. In some ways, horror movies are a strange thing. We look at horrible things as entertainment in a way when you actually know that nobody really got hurt. So they do have a certain oddness about them. Of course, our history is full of that kind of entertainment, but still, if you step back one little bit, it is odd. But it's also fun, and the fun part is that we sometimes mix humour with the horror. And the two movies I'm going to talk about now definitely sit there. The first one is The Abominable Dr. Phibes, starring Vincent Price, Joseph Cotton, and Peter Jeffrey. And the second one is its sequel, Dr. Phibes Rises Again, from 1972. Dr. Phibes itself being from 1971. They were both directed by the same guy, a guy called Robert Fust, who cut his teeth as a director doing episodes of the Avengers TV series. Not this one. This one. And he took a lot of the sensibility from that TV series into Dr. Phibes. It's a strange, crazy, and interesting little world that he creates for this now somewhat iconic villain. Anton Phibes was an organist and a theologian. He suffers a tragedy. His wife dies on an operating table, being operated on by 9 surgeons and a nurse. While he is away, he races back to Switzerland when he hears about the accident and crashes his car, suffering enormous disfigurement and planning revenge against the 9 doctors and 1 nurse. Assisted by his mute and very beautiful assistant Volnavia, played in the first movie by Virginia North and in the second movie by Australian actress and model Valley Kemp. Volnavia is a really strange presence in this movie, but I'll talk about her a little bit more later. Phibes lives in his mansion in London, and it kind of creates a hermetic world around himself while he plots his revenge. He has an enormous church organ and a band of clockwork musicians called Dr. Phibes Clockwork Wizards, which play anachronistic songs. A lot of the songs that the Clockwork Wizards play basically they weren't written in 1925 when the movie is set, and that again gives it a certain weirdness. Phibes decides that he's going to get revenge in a kind of Baroque way. He decides that what he's going to do is emulate the 10 plagues of Egypt that the Egyptians suffered before he let Moses and the Jews go. You've seen it in 10 Commandments, so you know the gig basically. So Phibes decides to emulate the 10 plagues of Egypt, and they're creative as hell. One of the joys of this movie, well, the first one and the second one to a certain extent, is seeing how the plagues of Egypt frogs, locusts, rats, other things, are applied to these somewhat innocent medical people. And so again, we've got that horror as fun kind of thing, and that strangeness that we have in that we enjoy that kind of stuff. And the lovely thing about this is we get to the stage where we're basically anticipating the next deaths, even though Inspector Trout, played by Peter Jeffrey, is hot on the heels of Phibes. He never quite catches up with him, which is kind of cool. One of the things this movie does really well is, at the time, Vincent Price had a tendency to overplay, to camp up his roles. With a few exceptions in movies like Witchfinder General, where he played more serious characters. He had a tendency to kind of overplay a little bit, which is okay because we love that in Vincent Price. But the lovely thing about Dr. Phibes is he has to underplay the role. Because Phibes can't speak except through a microphone he attaches to the side of his neck, he eats from the other side of his neck in a hole that we never see. And so because he has a kind of stilted delivery, because his voice is being generated basically by technology, that tendency of Vincent Price to overplay and to be flamboyant is understated, and instead we get a Phibes who has problems with speaking and yet is gloriously wonderful when he's planning and executing all of these elaborate murders. And it gives Vincent Price an opportunity to do physical acting much more than the verbal acting that he tended to do in a lot of other movies. And I like that. I like the fact that it took him into a slightly different area of his talent. Now, the first movie ends with Phibes retreating to his vault along with the body of his wife Victoria, who is neither living nor dead for some reason, and was played by Carolyn Munro, who later went on to do a whole bunch of other movies, Golden Voyage of Sinbad and Star Crash and all sorts of things like that. But in this one she doesn't get a lot to do. And in the second one she just lies in a glass coffin, which has some very, very interesting ornaments on it. Dr. Phibes Rises again gives us a kind of expanded Phibes universe in some ways. Phibes rises from his crypt and decides, like the first movie, that what he's going to do is he's going to resurrect his wife. And to do that he needs to find the River of Life, which is under a mountain in Egypt, in a vast Egyptian tomb. And he is racing to the tomb, racing against an antagonist called Darius Beiderbecke, played by a rival horror movie star, Robert Quarry, who people might remember from the two Count Yorga movies. Robert Quarry is not as good an actor as Vincent Price, and there was a lot of antagonism on the set. American International Pictures, who made both of the Dr. Phibes movies, were kind of grooming Robert Quarry to take over from the aging Vincent Price as their go-to horror guy. But he didn't particularly have the range to do that, and Vincent Price went on to do a number of other good roles after this one. But Darius Beiderbecke is an interesting character in his own right. He's hundreds of years old and he's kept alive by a potion that he's running out of, so he has to find the River of Life in order to maintain his life. While Beiderbecke and his beautiful consort Diana, played by Fiona Lewis, travel to Egypt along with Phibes, and Phibes then starts attacking the archaeological expedition that Beiderbecke hooks up with and killing the members of the expedition in the usual creative ways. It's a bit hard to say which of the two movies is better. One of the things I like in the second one is Valley Kemp playing Volnavia. She dances around in beautiful diaphanous dresses. And she gives us a kind of extra strange version of Volnavia. Virginia North, who played her in the first movie, wasn't available because she was pregnant. And so Valley Kemp gives us a different interpretation of the role, but really kind of eerie and strange and kind of almost, and not in any case sense, fairy-like Volnavia. And I kind of like that. I like the fact that Volnavia gets something to do. She's an interesting presence in the movie. Again, we get the Clockwork Band, but in this case just a quartet. And there's a little bit of a literary joke in the fact that they call the quartet the Alexandrian Quartet, which is a series of novels by Lawrence Durrell set in Egypt. So you've got kind of little Easter eggs in it as well. I think I saw the first one in the 1970s. It's a little hard to remember because I've seen so many bloody movies. But I saw the first one around that time, and the horror aspects of it were very confronting for the time. But then you get that kind of leavened with humour. And that was the thing. You could get away with more if you put a bit of humour into a horror movie. And Dr. Phibes definitely did that. I like the character, I like the world they create, this 1920s, beautifully Art Deco crossed with Art Nouveau world that Phibes creates for himself. The strange murders, the anachronistic music, which is beautifully done, partly with organ music and partly with jazz orchestrations. It's just got a kind of environment about it that I really enjoyed. There were some problems while the movies were being made as well. The second movie does seem a little bit disjointed because they had two scriptwriters who didn't talk to each other. And so they had two conflicting scripts. And the movie had to be kind of pieced together. If you look online very carefully, you will find PDFs of one of the unused scripts for Dr. Phibes Rises Again, and also a treatment for one of the sequels that was never made. And they kind of expand on the universe interestingly. And the script itself covers one of the continuity errors between the two movies, which is how did Volnavia come back in the manner in which she did. And I like the script's idea of how that happened much more than I like the idea that we got in the movie. But yeah, Dr. Phibes is worth checking out. There's a nice bare bones Blu-ray release here in Australia, which you can get for fairly inexpensively, and I'd advise that you pick it up if you possibly can wherever you are, because they are fun movies. They're nostalgic in the sense that they're from the 1970s, but they're also nostalgic because they hark back to the 1920s jazz age world. That kind of world of beautiful people and beautiful limousines and a man seeking revenge for the wrongs done to him. I like this series a lot, and it's probably one that I'm going to come back to at some stage in the future. Now, there were plans to do sequels, and I think it's a lost opportunity, the fact that they didn't do sequels for it. There was going to be something called Phibes Resurrectus, The Bride of Dr. Phibes, and The Seven Fates of Dr. Phibes. This is a franchise that I think could kind of work in a modern context. It's got a little feel about Sam Raimi's Darkman about it, and probably Darkman was in some ways influenced by Phibes. But I think that as a modern, say, a Netflix series, Dr. Phibes could work. You've got that 1920s mise-en-scène about it. You've got the strange and crazy deaths. You can do a lot with CG and other effects to give Phibes a distinctive look. But you'd have to find an actor who can do it with the same panache that Vincent Price gave it. And that's not to say that it couldn't be done. And in fact, I wouldn't mind it being done. I think it'd be a lot of fun to watch. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I've got another video planned for a couple of days from now about a 1960s movie, which is a lot of fun. Thank you for indulging me at the start of this video, and thank you for watching through. If you like what you see, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. And you can look at my Patreon at patreon.com/paleocinema. In the meantime, look after yourselves. Stay safe, watch good movies, watch bad movies, watch a bit of Vincent Price and have a bit of fun. And I'll catch you later.